Today in John Wesley's Journal is a podcast produced by the Wesley Center at Chattanooga, the United Methodist Student Center. In this podcast, we will learn about early Methodism by following John Wesley through his journal, as he and others begin a movement that would give rise to the Methodist Church in all its forms. So sit back and let's see what happened today in John Wesley's Journal. Welcome back to Today in John Wesley's Journal for October 17th, 1735. But before we get into that, let's look at some other things that happened today. In 107 AD, St. Ignatius of Antioch was put to death under the Emperor Trajan for his refusal to lead his church into apostasy by rejecting the good news, the gospel of Christ. Along the way, he wrote letters of encouragement and guidance to his churches like this one to the Magnesians. He said, "I want to forewarn you not to get snagged on the hooks of worthless opinions, but instead to be fully convinced about the birth and the sufferings and resurrection that took place during the time of the governorship of Pontius Pilate. These things were truly and most assuredly done by Jesus Christ, our hope, from which none of you ever be turned aside." On this day in 415, Rome ended the Jewish autonomy in Palestine. In 1532, Pope Clement VII ordered the humane treatment of the Jewish people. In 1651, Blaise Pascal, writing to some friends about the death of his father, left us this quote. He said, "Everything is sweet in Jesus Christ, even to death, and this is why he suffered and died, to sanctify death and suffering, and in common with God and man, he has been all that was great and all that was abject, in order to sanctify in himself all things except sin, and to be the model of every condition." In 1703, a clergyman in the Church of England by the name of William Burkitt died after suddenly taking ill in a church service. He's notable because of two things. He had been noted for helping refugees and for encouraging the relief of the poor during a particularly bad winter, and also he wrote notes on the New Testament that were well known at his time. In 1760, John Fletcher was inducted into the Vicarage of Madeley, and the source I have here says that he was a Methodist of deep faith and purpose, and he was supposed to be John Wesley's successor. But unfortunately, he died before John Wesley could even retire from that position. Also on this day in 1808, the Duchy of Warsaw suspended the political rights of its Jewish citizens. In this day in 1979, Mother Teresa of Calcutta received the Nobel Prize for her work among the most poor in that city through the Missionaries of Charity, which was a house she had founded over 40 years before on October 19th in 1950. In her Nobel lecture, she said, "Let us thank God for the opportunity that we all have together today, for this gift of peace that reminds us that we have been created to live that peace, and Jesus became man to bring that good news to the poor. He, being God, became a man, and in all things like us except sin. And he proclaimed very clearly that he had come to give the good news. The news was peace to all of goodwill, and this is something we all want, the peace of heart. And God loved the world so much that he gave his Son." And now John Wesley's Journal for today, October 17th, 1735. He said, "I began to learn German in order to converse with the Germans, 26 of whom we had on board. On Sunday, the weather being fair and calm, we had the morning service on quarterdeck. I now first preached extemporaneously, and then administered the Lord's Supper to 6 or 7 communicants, a little flock. May God increase it." That's John Wesley's Journal for today, October 17th, 1735, and now we get back to our time, and we'll be back for October 20th for another installment of John Wesley's Journal. Have a good day.